Yo, welcome everyone once again to the We Are Gamers series. My name is Champ Tone, aka Sykosys, a gamer, a person with a passion for Jesus and gaming. And once again, it is a true pleasure to grace your space this day with another one of these great 1v1 series, just introducing our gamer buddies, the person behind the actual gamer tag. Today we have my smooth buddy here, who I can honestly say I've never seen tilt in a video game. And we've played League of Legends, and my man will just keep it cool, keep it calm, and just such a smooth dude. Let me introduce Baby Powder Joe. Welcome, Baby Powder.
What's up? What's up? Happy to be here. I will say I do tilt on the inside, but I bottle it in until later.
Listen, you do a really good job because I have never, bro. We played quite a few games of League of Legends, and that's a game that brings it out of even as far as I've known the most calm dudes. But you never. All right, so let's get right to it. So if you please just give us your first name, please.
Yeah, my name is Joe.
Joe, my man Joe. And so what's your I refer to you as Baby Powder Joe. So what's your usual online gamer names that you go by in most games, or if you have a series of names, what do you usually use?
Yeah, I usually start with baby powder. Hopefully that's available. Back in the day,
Mm,
it used to be pretty available. Nowadays, it seems like there's more baby powders out there. So first, I start with baby powder. If it's taken, I go to baby powder Joe, or
mm.
then I try like the zero instead of the O in powder. I
Oh,
think I even
nice.
have a four as an A in the baby on one
Mm.
platform, but that's my usual go-to.
It's always baby powder. Nice, nice. So you seem to like really just stick with that name. What special meaning does that name really have for you?
It's kind of dumb, actually. It's not really special in any way. So Final Fantasy 11, the MMO, was like the
Mm,
first major online game that I played.
mm,
So me and my cousin got it first day it came out back in high school. Um, Signing up, got to pick a name. I kind of just looked around my house for like the most obscure item that could m- somewhat make sense.
no
And there
way.
was there was a thing of baby powder in the bathroom, um, and it's as stupid as that. And then after that was Counter Strike, and then
Mm.
that kind of really solidified. All right, I have to stay known as baby powder from here
You
on out.
you are baby powder. Yeah, I've seen that. All the games that we've played, I've definitely noticed you definitely stick to that. I always wondered. I'm like, why and everyone knows you as baby powder, like outside of some of your friends who know you in real life. I know they call you either baby powder or just Joe, but I mean you're just you are baby powder. That's
Yeah, yeah, man. It's like 20 years now at least.
wow. All right, that's actually good. That segues into this next question. So, if you don't mind, and this is always a tricky question, if you can just give us your age, or if you don't want to give us your exact age, you can give us the age bracket of how old are you, and when did you actually start video gaming?
I'm between 20 and 80 years old. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
It's true.
35. 35. I don't mind sharing that.
Nice, nice. And when did you actually start video gaming?
I must have been about between like 5 and 7. Whenever
Mm,
the original Game Boy came out, the big gray cube,
nice. Yeah.
the big gray block that came with Tetris bundled in.
Mhm. Mhm.
My grandfather bought that for me
Mm.
on like the army base commissary
Oh
that he
wow.
had,
Yeah.
uh, and that was my first introduction. And I just fell in love with it from there. And he followed that up soon after with the Super Nintendo,
Mm.
um, the one that came with two controllers and Super
Mhm.
Mario World
Mhm.
bundled in.
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
a little young for regular Nintendo, but I definitely had friends who had
Mm.
it at their house, and I was more Super Nintendo, Sega
Mhm.
Genesis
Mm. Mhm.
introduction.
Nice. Nice. So you did play though on the Nintendo. You just didn't have one.
Yeah, I never owned. a
Mm,
regular Nintendo, but definitely friends' houses and all that good stuff.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow, nice. Started on a Game Boy. That's interesting. And
Yeah,
so your experience on the Game Boy, you just got it. All right, let's go into this next question though. So what was it about video games that drew you to play them? You said your first system was actually a Game Boy. And I know Game Boy, I played the Game Boy, and that is actually, I mean, even to this day, it has stood the test of time in terms of great games. Even though the
yeah.
graphics are so old, and but the gameplay was still so good. It's just it has two buttons. It has the directional pad. What was it about the video games that drew you to play them?
I've always liked the escape element to
Mm,
video games. Thankfully, my real life hasn't been all that hard or crazy, but
mm,
um,
mm,
you know, even the easiest of lives can be difficult, and I think
absolutely.
it's always been the escape where my for that time my brain is only like focused on this challenge in front of me,
Mm,
um, and blocking out everything else. I think that's always been the main draw
mm,
for me. And then later years of the like social aspect with multiplayer games and things like that. But
mm-hmm,
um,
mm.
from all the way in the beginning till now, it's always been that escape mentality.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Being able to just disconnect, or just, well, when you mean escape mentality, is it, because I think I'm misconstruing what you're saying. So is it more a disconnect of, or escape as in fantasizing about just other things?
Yeah, it's pretty nuanced. I would say it's less about because escape can be perceived as negative, like
Right, right,
sticking your head in the sand to what's going on around you. It's
right.
more the like the break for my brain, or
Mm.
um
No, that's
like you
actually.
you have no choice but to whatever challenge or whatever you're trying to figure out in the game in front of you in the moment.
Mm, mm,
Usually you don't have time to think about other major things.
mm, mm,
Sometimes it happens, and then you
mm-hmm.
die or you have a terrible game. But um, usually most of the time you're in the zone.
Mm, mm.
That like you've
The
probably heard like
zone.
being in the zone,
The
being in the
zone.
flow.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
uh, it's the same thing with like sports and all that stuff.
No, absolutely. That's interesting. You talk about the zone. I was waiting for someone to talk about the zone. No one has talked about the zone yet.
Yeah, the
And
zone is important.
that I know, so that's that, like, you get so focused that it's almost like you're running on instinct and not thinking, but yeah, it's just like an athlete when they're and it's this has actually scientifically been proven. There has actually been research where people have tested the game patterns of someone playing a video game and getting into that zone, and the brain patterns of an athlete focusing on whatever activity they're doing, and the brain patterns are actually similar, which is very, very interesting. They literally get into the zone, they focus. I was like, I'm glad, because I used to say that to a friend of mine, because he used to ask, man, you when you start gaming, you seem so focused. I'm like, yeah, I'm in the zone, man. You get in the zone, everything around you is gone. Whatever problem you have at that moment, you're not thinking about it, because you're focused on the one task that's in front of you, right?
Yeah,
That's
man.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so let's move on to this next question. How was your Well, you said your grandfather actually was the one who kind of brought you into this gaming. And how was your family's reaction, really, when you actually started gaming? Negative, positive? Were they ambivalent? Did it even matter? How was their reaction?
I think it was more the last thing you said where it didn't really
Mm,
matter. I don't think it
hmm,
was negative or positive. They probably didn't really understand it a whole lot. They just knew like these are the hot new things that the kids are
mm,
wanting, and they were just happy that I was happy,
mm,
um,
mm,
but never really. never really cared too much. Or I played a little. I have an older sister. I played a little bit with her. I remember like
Mm-hmm.
playing Donkey Kong Country with her and her
Nice.
friends.
Yeah.
But you know, she wasn't super into them. It was
Mm.
more of a friends. It was always like a connection with friends coming over to my house, going to their
Mm-hmm.
house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, Sunday dinner, every Sunday dinner at my grandparents. My cousin would bring his PlayStation 1.
Nice.
We'd hook it up in the basement, and most of Sunday dinner,
Mm.
outside of eating, was downstairs playing PlayStation 1.
Nice. Nice. Would y'all
Um,
like? So it was you and your cousins just having a good time playing whatever multiplayer game was out at the time, right?
yeah, taking turns if it was single player or
Yeah.
you know the local co-op,
Mm.
local split screen, um, all those early great games. Those are
Yeah.
probably some of my best gaming memories.
Nice. Nice. All right. So if you could, if you don't mind, just sharing with us what is your actual heritage and cultural background?
Sure, I am Italian American.
Mm.
So all of my great grandparents were born in Italy.
Oh wow.
Everyone since then
Mm.
has was born in America. So
Mm.
pretty distant, but still have all the food and all the the made up words.
the ma-
Uh, uh,
the
spell,
mozzarella.
yeah,
The
pronouncing
mozz
things wrong.
the mozzarella.
Yeah,
That's interesting. All right, that's cool. That's cool. So with that in mind, so you're actually more basically, I guess, American in terms of cultural background as well as the Italian, right? Can I assume that since you're
yeah,
second generation American and
that's fair. That's a fair statement.
okay, so has there been any real positive or negative impact that your culture has actually had on your own personal gaming experience?
I think less so on personal gaming experience and more so on overall life experience, which
Mm,
bleeds into since gaming has always been such a big part of my life.
mm-hmm,
You know, affects it a little bit, but it's more on like,
mm.
um, you know, where I grew up was kind of an Italian American bubble at times, um, and
Nice.
now I find myself wanting to
Mm,
spread out more and diversify more, and I think that bleeds into gaming as well with the
mm,
social groups that I want to game with or spend time with in multiplayer games and things like that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's interesting. Can you just elaborate? That's an interesting point. I mean, can you just elaborate on that desire to wanna expand if that's cool?
Yeah, for sure. So, um, yeah, most of growing up was, you know, everyone at school looked the same. Everyone in my
Mm,
neighborhood kind of looked the same.
mm,
Um, you know, that bubble uh, phrase I use a lot to describe like kind of how it felt sometimes. Uh, and I grew up on an island, so it's like
mm-hmm. Yeah.
even more of a bubble with confinement. I went away to college and all that good stuff, but
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
we were happy, uh, my wife and I, to eventually kind of move away to a very diverse area.
mm,
Um, and you know, I still game with my cousins and all that good stuff, but
mm-hmm,
I probably game more with friends I've made
mm-hmm,
in my new home
mm.
than I do. So it blends together a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
No,
it's good questions actually. I never really uh, tried to think about how my heritage impacted my gaming culture. It's a cool question.
yeah, I mean, it's been different. It's been different for everyone. That's why I've asked it. It's always good to hear it, you know, from so this series is mostly people I know personally. Well, not personally, but that I've actually had the pleasure of gaming with. A few people I do know personally, like you for instance, and hearing these experiences and you know those reasons for why you've done the things that you've done, you know, like hearing about you wanting to expand out, you know, but also understanding your actual background because I never really knew your background. We knew each other what, maybe only a few years before, you moved from this part of town, but we've still been able to keep in touch. And I know when I see you on, if I'm playing the game, I'm like, oh, Baby Powder's on. Yo, what's up, Baby Powder? It's always been cool. But yeah, that's that's part of this whole thing, because everybody has a story. Everyone.
Yep.
There is no, I guess, coincidence to why things are, even, well, sometimes, but for the most part it'll lead up to why certain decisions are, just because I never knew that about you, which is, that's always the best part of this, learning about the person. So yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting. All right, so let's move on to this next question. So you still play video games now? I mean, I saw you online. We did have a game where I think I went 0 and 10. So and you didn't rage in that game. Again, you were pretty cool. You were pretty calm.
I try my best.
So why do you still play video games now? I mean, you told us you're 35. You're living your life. Why still play video games now?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is still that. I wish I had a better word than escape, but it's that still that zone trying to get
Mm.
like
Mhm.
um, give my brain a break from the day to
Mhm.
day cares
Mhm.
and the worries, even if
Mhm.
it's for a half hour or an hour.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I think the interactive entertainment part has always been like when people ask me why I play or
Mm.
why am I playing if I have an hour of downtime in that day, why
Yeah.
do I choose to play games instead of watch a
Mhm.
movie or watch a show, read a
Mhm.
book?
Mhm.
Um, it's that interactive element where you're taking control of that character. You're walking around that
Right.
world.
Right.
Um, that's why I always choose.
Mm.
Again, I have an hour to spare.
Mhm.
I usually go to video
Mhm.
games over other types of entertainment.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I can feel you on that. I mean now though it's cool because you can actually watch a movie and play, a video game at the same time, especially if you have multiple screens. I know one
Yeah, there's a
time,
lot of
yeah, it's so cool what you can do now. No, but that's interesting. The whole, and you're right about the escape word. People see it as a negative. It can be taken in that context that, oh, why are you trying to escape your life? Isn't your life good? And I mean, I've also heard the point that, sometimes you just need to, you need that separation. You've had a hard day. I've heard someone say, why am I going to go into a bar and, pour down some beer and forget about my day when I can just be home, in a safer space, but jumping on with some buddies, playing a game, which in his opinion, and I actually agreed with it, he felt was a more positive outlet for that escape. Whereas some people, they have to literally separate themselves from their family, which I won't say is right or wrong. It depends on the situation. It depends what activity they're actually doing. But for the most part, when you're going into that gaming space, you're there. You're still there, and I don't. I've never. I understand the negative connotation because I've had conversations with people, and again, like you said, you mentioned earlier about how with your parents they really didn't understand what gaming was. It was just, oh, it's what the kids are doing now, and
yep,
and for some people, I know that sometimes has been a negative because they don't know. They see it as, oh, such a waste of time, but like you said, instead of watching a movie for an hour, you're playing a video game for an hour where you're actually interacting, probably probably relaxing better because you're just focused on this, because sometimes a movie doesn't do that. It has to be a really good movie to get your
yep,
mind off of off of what's going on, whereas a game, you have to focus on it. If you don't, you're gonna mess up and lose.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of studies coming out now of I haven't dived too deep into them, but like
Mm,
benefits to motor
mm,
skills and cognitive
mm-hmm,
ability and
mm-hmm,
problem solving ability. Like
mm-hmm.
if you've grown up or have spent times
Yeah,
in games, so
yeah,
that's cool to highlight as well.
yeah, definitely. It's funny you say that. I have a cousin. When I was moving to where I'm at now, he packed my truck better than I have seen professional movers pack anything. And I was amazed at how good he was at packing. I knew he played video games, but only recently I discovered he loved doing puzzles.
Okay.
So he loved do it, putting things where they belong. It's so wild. And I look back and I'm saying, see, because he was so good at that, he was able to pack my truck where I only needed to take 2 trips when I probably would have needed to take 4 otherwise. Because my man packed this truck better than a champion Tetris player on the line. It was amazing. It was amazing. But yeah, it's video game does, the cognitive ability, the motor skills, definitely the hand-eye coordination. I mean, people don't. I'm glad the studies are coming out about it because there has been a lot of negative connotations. Just it being a waste of time. But it's also now an esport. You can make money.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
not even there's a pathway to actually becoming having a successful career in it, which is so different from 10 years ago. you know? So, yeah, it's so interesting. All right, so let's go. Oh man, I'm really enjoying this conversation. Let's let's go to this next question. So, what is your number one number one favorite video game of all time? Doesn't
Oh
matter the
man.
system, doesn't matter the decade, that
Yep.
one game that you can think of that it just hits all the feels in your brain, in your heart. Just it's just so
Yeah.
good. What is your number one video game?
Yeah, I knew this was coming. It's always a hard this is always a hard one. Um there's just so many. I think I always have to answer though
Hmm.
World of Warcraft.
Oh, really?
Um like I know where there's classic came out and all that good stuff, but I'm
Mm,
talking
mm,
about when it launched.
mm,
Um there just hasn't been a time period or a game
mm,
that has captured my imagination or that sense of adventure,
mm,
um, while also combining that with the social elements that I love of
mm,
questing with my family and my friends and
mm.
raiding with people I didn't know before but got to know over some difficult raids in the early days when you had to
Yeah,
figure it all out on your own.
yeah. That was those
Um,
those were hard. Those were.
um, so
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely a lot in the conversation in the top 5 or 10 or whatever, but I think
Mm,
I always have to answer the perfect combination of time and
mm,
what it
mm,
meant to me and nostalgia.
mm-hmm.
I think I have to answer early days of World of Warcraft.
The original, just when it first released. Yeah,
Yeah, man.
yeah. Wow.
Before any DLC, even.
Mm-hmm. 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 Nice, nice. So, all right. So let's go to this next one, which is always sometimes it's been related, sometimes it's not. So there's always that one gaming memory that everyone has, and sometimes it's a good memory, sometimes it's a bad memory, but it's a memory that you just can never forget. What's that one gaming memory that you will never forget?
That's another tough one. I don't I don't know if I could pick a single memory,
Mm,
um, but very close number two that hit checked all the boxes that I just mentioned about World of Warcraft was
mhm,
Counter Strike, like Counter
mm,
Strike 1.6,
mhm,
when Steam first launched. This is when like the only game you could play on Steam was Counter-Strike. Um, and just those like early days of we made a clan, we like me and my cousins chipped in to get a server, like we paid the monthly bill for
Oh
the
wow,
server.
nice.
Um,
Yeah.
and we just had like a bunch of idiots. I say that lovingly. Um, like just hanging around in Counter-Strike games till
Mm,
like 3 in the morning.
mm.
Um, playing all the like silly custom maps where you're in like jeeps going over ramps or uh leet skeet where you're doing like skeet shooting each other.
Oh my goodness.
You're like flying out of
Yeah.
out of shooting things. I just have such fond memories of messing around there, like using our admin powers to like put people in the ground and stuff.
Oh my goodness. You guys went,
Um,
you guys just went all out with it. That's funny. That's funny.
yeah, it was so much fun. And then I still keep in contact with
Mm,
most of those people. We've met, we've done in-person meetups a few times. I've
nice.
gotten to know people. Some
Nice.
I've never met in person, but
Mm,
I still talk to these people from
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
20 years ago.
mm-hmm.
Um, so that collectively is probably my favorite gaming memory.
Yeah. That's a that's a great memory actually. That's those and it's cool, right? Those moments, those gaming memories that it's usually not just us alone. It's usually a memory where I know for me, it's a memory with other people that are involved in what I like doing. You know,
Yep.
it's yeah, isn't that cool? Just you're with people who share your passion, and you're all just literally on the same level, just acting, being yourselves, and just having such a great time. And it's usually like a crazy time too, because those are usually the times where just right, like you said, those skeet you were skeet shooting people that
Yeah. So lead
I'm
skeet.
thinking about that.
If no one's ever played lead skeet, the custom map in Counter Strike, I highly recommend it. So you swap teams every round.
Oh my
One team
goodness.
is in like a has just
Mm,
snipers, and you're in like a booth,
mm.
and the other team is above these chutes. And when the round starts, you actually drop down in, and they shoot you out across the map.
Oh my
So
goodness. And they have to.
the other team is trying to hit you.
That's
If they don't get you in the air, you land, and you only have a knife. So then you're trying to like bob and weave so that they're not hitting you until you
mm,
can get to
mm.
them and try and knife them. So um,
That is so funny.
such a simple concept, but so many hours of crazy
Oh,
times.
I could imagine, especially when you're in a full lobby and it's just all your buddies,
Oh
and you
yeah,
guys
yeah,
are just. Yeah, I know you're laughing because I mean, those are the moments. That's an amazing. That's actually a good gaming memory. Oh man, this has been so good. We're actually winding down. Oh man, I always get to this point and I'm like, oh, we gotta wind down, but we're trying to keep it, a certain a certain time limit. So
yep,
let's get to this last question, which is more of a technical question. That's actually I've never heard of that custom map in Counter Strike. That's
yeah.
actually
Check it out.
pretty
Check it
wild.
out.
All right, so you started with the Game Boy. You've played on Nintendo, and you've seen technology evolve. You've been pretty active in the technology scene. You've kept up to date from what I understand. So, how do you feel the evolution of technology has actually impacted your own gaming experience? Has it been a positive? Has it been a negative? Has it been both? But how has technology actually impacted your own gaming experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it overall, I gotta say, it's been positive. Like um, starting simple with just networked games, like games being over the
Mm,
internet.
hmm
Most of
hmm
my early days were, still online, but in the early days of that, and now just the like robustness of online
mm,
systems that we have.
hmm
Um,
So you had the
And then like,
DSL and
yeah, man. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, little side tangent. There's a like a pet collection game on the web
mm,
when I was in middle school, and
mm,
there's a certain time when an item came out that was super valuable, and
mm.
only people with broadband internet were fast enough to get it. So
What?
that was the time when I begged my parents to switch from dial-up to broadband.
So
And then sure enough, I was able to get
you got
that
it.
item. I
Oh,
think it was
that's
like Nanopets or
oh, that's hilarious,
I
bro.
forget the name, but sorry, that was a tangent.
That's
But
hilarious. No, no, that's actually that's a part of this question. Yeah, so
yeah,
it's
it
it's
was a
impacted you.
technological advancement that
Yeah.
benefited me greatly. Um, and
Mm,
then
mm,
recently, things come to mind like um, playing a game on my Xbox on Game Pass
mm,
with the traditional TV and console setup.
mm,
I could shut that off
mm.
and pick up where I left off on my phone.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, like that's just in my eyes positive. You know, again, a negative slant can be put to anything
Mm-hmm.
with like too much and every screen like consumes
Mm,
us and things like that. But
mm.
you know, if you keep it in moderation and do it healthy,
Yeah.
that stuff is just cool. You know, the Switch,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
the Steam Deck.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, the Steam Deck. Yeah, I really like the Steam Deck. I mean, my wife told me no, but I
I don't have one. I don't have one yet either, but I'm a big fan of the concept.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, that whole yeah. I like what the Stream Deck offers. It's basically a computer,
yeah,
you
it's a
know?
Linux computer. You
Yeah.
could browse the web. You could do crazy things.
Yeah. So I mean, I saw when I first saw that, I said, "Wow, this like I saw it beyond the context of video gaming." I said, "Oh, cool, we can do some gaming, but you can do a lot of things on this thing." Like, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So no, keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah. That was
I like the
basically
Steam
it.
Deck.
That's
Mm, mm-hmm,
you know, VR I think is still a little bit, you know,
mm,
a question mark.
mm-hmm,
I personally enjoy it greatly.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I know it's whether it becomes mainstream or not is always a hot topic issue or question.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
personally am a big fan.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
VR,
yeah, those are the things that stick out to me.
yeah, the technology is definitely there, but definitely that interaction where I know with the Switch, especially because now there are a few games. I know I believe Diablo 2 is like that, where you can use the same account. You can't play with excuse me, you can't play with actual Switch and PC at the same time yet, but you're using the same account. So you log in on the Switch, you have the same set of characters in the same game world, but you can only play with Switch players. But if you get items and stuff like that, you can switch over to PC and those same items are there. And I know with a few other games, I know the game in particular you're talking about, how you can just switch and more games slowly more games are starting to adopt this seeing the value of it. I know crossplay is a big one because for years, remember, I don't know if you ever talked about this with your friends, but I know I've had this conversation. I always said, why don't these game companies allow Xbox and PlayStation, Nintendo and PC to all play with each other? It wouldn't be a bad thing. Then there was the people would say, "Oh, but the PC gamers, especially with a first person shooter, PC gamers would have, I guess, a slight advantage with the mouse and keyboard versus the controller and things like that." And which I get, but that whole dynamic, and then some games actually started doing it and it took off. And now we have so many games now and people are actually this is becoming a realistic expectation, which I like. I don't know if you've noticed it, but other games have really adopted this. Oh, we need to have crossplay because that's what people want. People, that whole social aspect, and you spoke about this a few times. Being able to play with your friends, being able to play with your friends now. I'm on PC while you're on your Xbox, that is so good because for a long time now, I don't know about you, but I know for me, one game comes to mind, Destiny 2. They actually recently introduced that. And
Yep.
now there's people that I know Call of Duty Warzone is like that. And there's people that I would have never been able to play with cuz I'm more focused on my PC with in terms of just gaming, and that's my space where I practice it at. Now I can actually, reach out to them, be like, "Yo, let's jump on this and do this real quick." We can all just literally jump in a game, play for an hour, and there's no hassle. You know what I mean? That
Yep.
is that is so good. Oh man, see, I keep talking. I'm terrible.
No, that was a
So,
great cross play and cross progression. That's I didn't
mhm,
think about that.
mhm,
That was,
mhm.
that's a great one to bring up for sure.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. All right, so once again, we are at our time. Baby Powder, I want to say thank you for joining us. The the original Baby Powder, because I honestly believe you are the original Baby Powder. So,
I think
ba-
so.
everyone who's listening, I just want to thank you for listening in, letting us grace your space once again to not just my voice, but the smooth tones of Baby Powder Joe. I mean, his voice is so smooth. I can't get over it. So thank you once again for letting us share your space. Thank you for listening in. Just know that you are awesome. Jesus loves you, and ganadora.